Pretty good. How are you?
I'm all right. I was calling in. To me, it seems like a contradiction to base a belief system on doubt. And I notice most atheists tend to be physicalists.
Well, so, I mean, I'm a little confused about what you're saying because you could say that I have a belief system based on doubt, and that would be my skepticism. It isn't based on doubt so much as it's based on the reliability of doubting things and demanding evidence. Are you trying to say that? Can you rephrase what you're saying, because I don't want to put words in your mouth?
Well, belief and doubt seem to me contradictory, like opposites. So to base a belief system on doubt, as when an atheist, because an atheist feels, I find like atheists tend to be strong on their lack of belief. They feel strongly against their lack of belief.
Yeah, we're quite certain of a number of things that we don't believe in. That's not the same as having a belief system based on doubt. I have a belief system based on, a rational effort to acquire evidence to support the things that I'm going to believe.
And there's a difference between not believing theistic claims and believing they're false. Just because I don't saying that I do not believe that there's a God is not a belief based on doubt. It is not having a belief because I doubt.
Okay. What kind of evidence would you need to believe in God?
I don't know. What do you got?
Well, I always base proofs on indirect proofs when it comes to a foundation for belief. So I would take the claims that atheists use to discredit God and try to find ways to overcome them. And then if you combine all those together, that would be a proof of God.
That would
indirectly.
That would actually be a potentially good start to take the criticisms of theistic claims and to come up with sound rebuttals to those criticisms. That would actually be a good start. It still wouldn't get you to proving the claim that a God exists. I mean, because even if there were no objections to this claim, it still stands or falls based on its own merits.
Okay.
And the evidence.
Well, a good start is a good start. I mean, that's a way of getting around to.
Yeah, the number one.
I would never be able to provide physical evidence of a God.
Sure. Why not?
I don't think that. Well, because God's metaphysical.
So how do you know it exists if you have no evidence to support it?
Well, if something's metaphysical, it would be beyond space and time, or transcendent.
Okay, so the answer is
makes it sound like it's supposed to be somewhere high above. But
sure. So if it's beyond your detection, what reason do you have to think that it's true?
Because a different logic would apply, such as the unity of opposition, because there would be no law of contradiction beyond space-time.
Okay, first of all, I reject the idea that the law of contradiction it doesn't apply somewhere.
Well, it refers to time. It's everything has to be or not
sure.
be.
My question though is
time and in the same respect.
My question though is, what reason do you have to believe that it's possible for anything to exist without space and time? Isn't existence also temporal?
Well, I would say God would subsist, which would be like a foundation, like
sure.
A purpose for doing something would be.
But what reason do you have?
When it exists, it would, be something that we would follow because it's something that's we're using as a foundation.
Sure.
So,
but what reason do you have for thinking that thing is actually true?
Well, most religious people tend to have it like an internal. It's something they feel internally, and with the unity of opposition, something transcendent would be beyond our detection, but then something internal would be something we strongly feel.
It sounds to me, see if I understand you, correct me if I'm wrong here, all right? Sounds like what you're saying is there's this metaphysical stuff that can't be proved with physical evidence, and therefore you can prove it on the basis of logical arguments, right?
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
Right? That is what you're saying.
Yes.
So do you say that all things that are not, that all claims about physical things, about non-physical things, right? If you can construct a logically sound argument for its existence, then it must exist? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I wouldn't say a consistent argument.
Okay, consistent argument.
Well, what the hell does that mean?
So you realize I could sit here and spout off any number of things which I claim are non-physical and construct logically consistent arguments for those things, and they'd be completely made up.
Well, they have to be consistent and sufficient. Because Occam's razor
I can easily make up
do
things
not
that are...
multiply entities beyond necessity.
The problem with logic is it doesn't in fact tell you anything unless you can establish that the premises you feed into it are true. And that is where physical evidence comes in. You see?
Right.
As soon as you say, well, we don't...
I admit. That would be that. I mean, if you had physical evidence of God, there would be no free will, because
why?
That's
everyone was
nonsense.
just believing.
And first of all, what makes you think there is free will?
People believe in trees.
Andrew, are you aware that there is physical evidence that the world is a sphere? There is, right?
Oh yes.
There's physical evidence that the world is a sphere. There is also an organization called the Flat Earth Society.
Right.
So, the existence of physical evidence does not deny free will. That's ridiculous.
Well, yeah. But people are going to extremes when they join the Flat Earth Society.
So
what?
So what? You're saying you just made the
moon
claim. You just made the claim that if we had physical evidence of God's existence, we would have no free will. That's not true.
Yes. Well, there would be exceptions to anything. Everything has exceptions, especially if someone's whacked out. And
if there is an exception to free will, that's called the free part, right? If there is the ability to not
no free will,
if there's an exception to free will, if there's an exception in which you get to believe what you want in spite of physical evidence, that's the free part, and it's still there whether you got the evidence or not.
But there would be no challenge to having the will to believe in something physical like a tree.
I want to know why any of this matters to the claim of whether or not this is true, because you've said a number of things. First of all, you wanted to chug the idea of sound arguments and go for something that is consistent. Sorry, I don't play that game. Logical arguments are valid and sound. Those are the two characteristics. The fact that you can make up something that's internally consistent doesn't mean a thing, because it has to be consistent with reality. Now, when you start talking about things that exist outside of reality, and you admit that you can have no physical evidence for them, therefore they don't interact, therefore you have no direct way to confirm this, and earlier when asked why people believe this, you said it was because internally they felt it strongly. Why should anybody care whether somebody else feels it strongly? And just because you feel it strongly doesn't mean that it's true.
Okay. Well, let me put it this way. Like, a sound argument would be physically proven, I have to admit. But if I want to prove a personal meaning of something to me, or if I want to prove a purpose for my doing something, say my purpose for making this call is just to chat or whatever, how can I prove that? And I couldn't make a sound argument about my purpose for calling something. I could only make a consistent argument. I could only make a sufficient argument, and people would accept that, because there's no way I could physically provide evidence of my personal meaning of doing something, or
we're not challenging you. If you say, you have opinion X, right? You can't provide physical evidence that is in fact your opinion, but we're also not challenging you on that. And you're not going around demanding that people, join organizations and give money or adhere to various metaphysical claims on the basis of your claim that you have that opinion. It's not the same kind of thing with theism, and particularly, like folks like you calling our show trying to tell us why we should believe the same way you do. That then we're going to ask for the evidence. And
Yeah,
if you can't give it, then we're going to say, well, we don't believe you, and we're done.
Yeah, if your claim is nothing more than it is my opinion that God exists, okay, great, we don't care.
Yeah, congratulations.
Well, no, it's not my opinion. I mean, it's just
It's not.
falls into another domain than proving something like a tree or something like that.
No. You just, is it not your opinion that God exists?
It's my logical. I mean, it's my opinion based on a sufficient and consistent argument.
I'll agree with you.
okay.
I'll agree with you, Andrew, that there are claims that can be made that cannot be proved. The answer is tough.
Well,
Tough.
The assumption with atheism, it seems to me, is that
There is no
everything
assumption.
must be physical in order to be
No.
proven true.
No, there is no assumption.
Well, I know it's not. It's a lack of belief. Atheism is a lack of belief, so there's no
Right.
fundamental system called atheism. But the
there's
tendency seems to be that the standard of evidence people wish to have when they call themselves an atheist is physical evidence.
no. What you're talking about now isn't atheism. It's skepticism, and skepticism is the position that one should not believe something until it is supported by the evidence.
Now, my question would be, what kind of evidence? Now you
And
said
it
you
depends-
would
around
reject
this.
the consistent argument.
Okay, first of all, you keep saying consistent argument and sufficient argument, and you seem to be jumbling all kinds of terms because sufficient tends to apply to necessary and sufficient when you're talking about causal chains, and consistent arguments, we don't care if you can make an internally consistent argument because that doesn't demonstrate anything that's true. When I'm talking about skepticism and saying that the position is, the skeptical, or what skepticism is this idea that one should not accept claims until they've been supported by evidence. And now you want to know, well, okay, well, what kind of evidence? Well, that depends entirely on the claim. Okay. Different claims require different evidence. If you tell me you have a pet dog, I may be willing to take you at your word. But we could investigate and find out, let's go to your house. Do we see a dog? Do we see evidence of a dog? Do we find dog hairs? Do we find dog turds on the lawn? Do we find dog food? There's a evidence that leads up to let us determine whether or not this claim is most likely true. Does the evidence support our acceptance of this tentatively, because everything is accepted tentatively? That's the part about being both a skeptic and intellectually consistent, which is I'll change my mind if the evidence starts to contradict the claim. However, if you tell me that you have an invisible pet dragon, well, all right, that takes a little bit different evidence. There's a process that we go through when we hear a claim, and it's a bit inductive and a bit intuitive, and it's, okay, who's making this claim? What do I know about them? Are they trying to, do they have some good reason to lie, or are they most likely true? Number two, the nature of the claim itself. How does that compare to what I already know and understand about reality? Does it contradict it? How many things will I have to change about my view of reality if I accept this particular claim? And you go through this entire process, and you proportion your belief to the evidence. Now, when you're talking about a God, and in your case, a transcendent metaphysical God that provides no evidence, then the only rational position is to offer no belief. That's the proportion to the evidence.
Well, here's the argument. Like, say, I believe in a cosmic Bigfoot, or a Bigfoot.
Okay, you believe in a Bigfoot.
Or even an invisible pet dragon. Now, that seems inconsistent just by the claim, because why would there be an invisible dragon?
Why would there be a
God?
God?
A dragon spouts fire. You would have invisible fire too.
How do you know this dragon breathes fire?
Along those lines.
How do you know this dragon breathes fire? I don't know. Keep going. This is kind of pointless.
Well, no. Now, if I said God was a pure mind, or a mind, which is what most religions tend to ultimately believe when they go down to the basics.
Sure.
Then the mind, to me, seems non-physical, because when I have a personal meaning of something,
how do you jump
I can't
from...
provide physical evidence for it.
Andrew?
So it seems non-physical.
No.
Andrew?
Yes.
Excuse me, Andrew. How do you jump from it's a mind to it's non-physical? Aren't all minds that we know of physical? All minds that we have actual examples of are physical. They exist. They're produced by physical brains.
Yes, mind is a product of the brain.
How come you just jumped from it's a mind to it's a non-physical mind? What's your evidence for that?
Well, neuroscience can never physically demonstrate another person's personal meaning, like firsthand.
What?
We were talking minds. Let's get back to minds. You said mind. Let's talk about minds.
Well, consciousness, mind, it seems to me the same thing.
Sure, sure. What evidence do we have of a mind that exists absent a physical brain? How many of those can you point to?
That's like asking, have you ever seen a radio wave?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
It's like asking, have you ever seen a radio wave made of cheese?
Or it's like asking if you've ever detected a radio wave and not had it be the product of a radio signal, a radio tower.
But the music would still exist.
What difference does that make? We're talking about minds here.
Well,
You're
well,
asserting
the mind could come out.
Andrew, you're asserting that it's plausible, sufficiently plausible to justify belief, that some mind exists absent a brain. And the question was, how many times, do you have any evidence that supports the claim that a mind could possibly exist absent a physical brain? Do you have any?
Well, with the
answer the question, Andrew.
Supposed to take us to another dimension.
Andrew, answer the question.
We have time.
Do you have any evidence to support the claim that a mind can exist absent a brain?
Logical evidence or physical evidence?
There is no logical evidence. Evidence is a thing you feed into logic to find out what's true.
No, I would say logic is the starting point. And then when you find something consistent...
I'll take it your answer is no, since you seem desperate to avoid the question.
Well, there's no physical evidence of that because there's...
Thank you.
It seems that the brain's the physical medium for the mind. But that doesn't mean that it produces thought and consciousness.
You're right. It doesn't mean
that it's
Andrew, it doesn't mean that. My question was, what evidence do you have that minds can exist absent a brain? I'm not asserting that it's impossible. I'm asking you what evidence you have to support it. Because all of the existing evidence shows that minds are the products of brains.
For instance, a robot was never produced that produced consciousness. Now, the brain was purely physical.
If you're not going to do anything but sit here and make completely unfounded assertions that are completely irrelevant and avoid the questions that we're actually asking, I'll just hang up. Why do we need to go?
I would say no.
Why do we need to go to robots, and why do you need to make about assertions about what's possible in robotics when you have no clue?
Well, there is no physical evidence that of a mind without a brain. If that's your question.
Okay.
So why believe that it's possible?
Because when I produce consciousness from my brain, I can't physically reproduce it. For another person, it's all done indirectly. Observation of my thoughts from another person's perspective.
You're not even listening to the question. You're answering some other question. You just agreed that there's no physical evidence to support the claim that a mind can exist absent a brain. And my next question was, if that being the case, why would you believe that a mind can exist absent a brain?
Because the mind, to me, would be non-physical.
So
all right,
we're done. Physical evidence of something non-physical.
Come on, man. Let's move on.
No, a mind,
this guy's got nothing.
When you think, you can't produce it for another person to
so
observe.
What?
People
so what?
have
You've
to,
already,
how does that...
Andrew, you've already agreed that there is no evidence of minds that exist without brains. You've already agreed to this. Why are you now going down this other rabbit hole? It doesn't matter.
You're on hold. I haven't hung up. And here's the reason. This is a common communication error that occurs when we're having these discussions. I've asked a very, very, very simple question, and you've offered answers to questions that don't even come close to addressing what we're asking. I said, do you have any reason to think that a mind can exist absent a brain? Do you have any evidence to support this? And your answer is no. My next question is, then why would you believe it? And instead of offering reasons why you would believe it, you went on to describe various ideas and problems about brains. I want to know why you believe this without supporting evidence. That's all I want to know.
Well, if you recall at the beginning, I said proofs are established indirectly. I can't offer a direct proof.
Good. Then why'd you call?
could
Then why'd you
exist without a
call?
brain,
Because
but
this is
indirectly.
why did you call, Andrew? Because this is nothing more than an opinion. I care about what's actually true. I care about things that are supported by evidence. I do not care about delusions.
Well,
If we
my point
cannot,
of view is
if we cannot differentiate your claim from a delusion, can you provide me some mechanism by which I can tell the difference between your claim and a delusion?
I guess I would have to say that you're jumping to a delusion because what I'm proving here
Can you
is
answer
that,
my question?
It's consistent to have this belief that a mind could.
I don't give a
brain.
crap about consistency. I asked a question. How do I tell the difference between your claim and a delusion?
Well, because everyone has the same experience with brains, so no one can offer physical evidence of their personal meaning of something.
That has nothing to do
Everyone
with the
will have
question
this-
I just asked. You're done.
Woo!
I realize that this is his brain spinning in circles desperately because he has no answers to these difficult questions, and he's trying to cling to whatever it is that he believes. We've got to, it would really be nice if we had better ways to address those kind of communication gaps. But other than straightforward, simple questions, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a yes or no question.